Welcome back to the MACC program, Inside the Session. We are on episode 2. And guess what? We are bringing in some guests to the show. So y'all had me and Cheryl last episode, but we can't have this much fun by ourselves. So we brought in 2 experts to talk about our topic for today related to technology and innovation in our profession.
Yeah, so we're super excited. So, one of the things that people have been talking about is this idea of mental health and social media. And we thought we'd bring in 2 of our team members to help us generate some conversation around that. So, let's introduce Dr. Samantha Guber. Sam, tell us a little bit about you.
I am an assistant professor here at Alliant, and I've been here about 5 years, but I've been teaching probably 25. I also have a private practice, so I deal a lot with the technology because it's virtual. And also, I do have a lot of clients that have concerns about use of AI, use of social media, use of technology. And we do explore a lot of ways to navigate that. So, this is a perfect topic for us to talk about on this podcast.
Welcome. And we also have the wonderful Dr. Donnette Deigh. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Donnette Deigh. I am an assistant professor at the MACC program as well. I have my own small little private practice utilizing a lot of different modalities, mostly creative, but also using a lot of cultural diverse and responsive techniques. I'm also a research analyst, so of course I have to use that nerdy brain of mine to figure out how social science and mental health and interacting with people work out. And then I do a lot of, community service regarding mental health and advocacy. So I'm also the president of the Maryland Counseling Association, and I kind of dabble a little bit in social justice. So as far as AI and how that connects, a lot of clients, individuals, people that I interact with are trying to really navigate how they can incorporate that in their lives, but also kind of like, am I using it too much? Am I not using it enough? How do I use it? Am I using it correctly? So I think that this podcast is right on time.
You know me, guys. I always kind of look up what's the latest in the news on this topic, what's happening. So I pulled up some stats, which I think are pretty astounding. So one of the things I pulled up is 70% of the teens experience an increase of self-diagnosed depression utilizing social media, and more than 2.5, almost 3 times experience self-diagnosed depression while they have 2 more hours a day online. I'm thinking about 2 hours a day online. How often are we online? A lot. And then 41% of Gen Z describe experiencing anxiety, sadness, and depression, while 40% are experiencing a decrease in sleep. So these statistics indicate there's a lot of stuff going on with regard to social media use and teenagers and Gen Zs and folks in general. What are some of your thoughts about all that?
This is an interesting topic, and I feel like this is something that's been going on for like at least the last 10 years, right? Since like social media has been like on and ongoing. Like, yeah, we had Facebook and like MySpace and, Black Planet and all that stuff like the last 20 years. Am I dating myself? I don't know. I identify as a millennial. So we had all of those things through our teenage and early adult years. But a lot of the things that are popping up now is that there's a lot of comparison type of things, right? Where they're seeing things online and they're trying to compare themselves to their counterparts. I feel like that is contributing to their mental health, whether it's anxiety or depression, feeling like they're not good enough, feeling like they have to compete, feeling like, oh, I need to pretty much showcase this part of my life, even though they're not feeling like their reality matches up to what they're seeing online. And I've seen that even with like small children have been kind of really immersed into social media. And I know that, utilizing iPads and phones younger as we move, through the decade is that more children have access to these platforms. And I feel like that is increasing the engagement of mental health and social media.
And if I can add to that, I think it's even gotten worse over the last 5 years or so with the use of AI tools or filter tools. So when they do these comparisons, they're not comparing themselves to real life. People are using tools to enhance their pictures, enhance their look, especially for young females when they're feeling like they're less than and they go online and they see these photoshopped pictures. I'm probably dating myself with that word, but they see these Photoshop pictures that are just not real life, and that's not what the person looks like. So, I mean, I'm surprised by the low percentage of anxiety you were talking about, simply because a lot of people go on there and scroll and scroll and scroll, and it becomes overwhelming. So, there is a lot of depression, but for some, it becomes very overwhelming, which can lead to depression that they're not doing enough or they don't have a fulfilled enough life, or, other people are doing much better things and have a higher sense of purpose. And what am I doing? What do I have to post? What do I have to contribute?
I was just going to say, it's funny you say that because even just today, when I was kind of doing my flip scroll through Facebook real quick, and my 20 some odd year old niece, co ed niece, found her way to Mexico right before she started back to university and just got back from Oktoberfest in Montreal. I'm sitting there thinking, girlfriend, you're just in college. How are you able to do all this?
Yeah, I know, to add on to what Dr. Guber says, that in the last 5 years, we're coming off of, being in a pandemic too. So a lot of that social anxiety probably kicking into and being also isolated from people in real life. So getting that connection that you can actually touch people and face to face and actually hear the things that they're going through is way different than visually seeing it online. If people are just posting, scrolling, looking for things to do online and then saying, oh, I did this and I did that. Who knows if that's actually true? Let's forget about them trying to Photoshop things about themselves. People are generally just maybe fabricating some things about life. And the other individuals that are seeing these things are thinking that this is real life. And also, the monetary value of those who are posting things, right? So because of the loss of jobs and us being isolated from the pandemic, people had to find other ways of making money. And the best way to make money is to do things virtually or online. So how do they make their income? By posting things online. So it might not be quality things that's going on, right? It has to be quantity for them to make money. And I think that there's a lot of nuance to that as well. If someone is utilizing social media for pleasure versus someone utilizing it for business.
Can you differentiate that? What would that look like?
So as far as utilizing social media for pleasure, it's like, oh, hey, I just went to the mall, or I went out on a trip, right? Like just like how your niece went, you went on a trip and you're just posting it just to get some engagement and say, like, letting people, your friends and family, know what you've been up to the last couple months, right? That's for pleasure. That's something simple and harmless, right? Or then there's the other side, is that they're doing lifestyle content, right? And they are banking on a certain amount of people looking at that post, engaging in that post in order for them to get a check later. So they might be tagging some collaborators or even some businesses in order them to, kind of look and draw people more to their post. And also, like, seeing like the likes and the comments in there, it makes it seem like people are more popular. Even though we're adults, we see things like that, like, oh, we don't really care. But those who are like, teens and adolescents or young adults, they kind of care about that. It's a kind of a feeling of being in high school and that popularity type of thing, right? So not only are you seeing these people that may or may not look like me, now you're seeing the attention that they're getting, especially if you were isolated and you were not used to getting all that attention before. Now you're seeing other individuals getting this attention. Oh, how do I get that? That's another comparative. Like, what should I do to get this? And that's not necessarily healthy from a self-esteem standpoint.
They're judging their self-worth by how many followers they have. I don't have any followers, or I don't have any friends, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Oh, I have 1,000 followers. And you realize you don't know these people. And even if they're using it not for business purpose, but even for just, their own personal purposes, their value can still be based on how many followers they have.
So, so this brings up a whole nother question I'm curious about. As we're going inside the
Mhm.
session, we're going behind the scenes. Two questions. One is from a parent perspective. What are some thoughts you have about a parent dealing with this? Because this is a totally different world that many parents never experience, especially for their child with social media. And then the other question relates to, I'm sure that, yeah, this may apply a lot to younger people, but I also wonder, does it connect to adults as well? Like you said, I didn't get a lot of attention. Now I'm getting a lot of attention, even as an adult professional. Does it apply to both? And just want to hear your thoughts about both of those perspectives.
Absolutely applies to both. I can tell you, especially during the pandemic, coming off the pandemic, adults, because that was their way of connecting, if they didn't have those people that they can connect with. I've had clients that have told me, oh, I reconnected with such and such on Facebook or on Instagram or on whatever social media platform they're on. And it's someone they hadn't talked to in, I don't know, 10 years. Then they remember there's a reason they haven't talked to them in 10 years. And then there's the awkwardness. Do I unfollow? Like, how do I now disconnect from this? And it's causing this anxiety for them. And then they had more free time to be on social media. So they're going, well, how come these people are doing this? Or how come these people are doing that? Or if it's something they don't agree with, for example, with the vaccine or people not getting the vaccine and people going out to restaurants or going and flying places, and they see people doing these things they disagree with. And then they have this now phobia that they're going to die from COVID or die from an illness because people aren't following the rules. And it's their rule breaking is broadcast all over social media, and it creates this anxiety for them. In addition to now working virtually, so all their contact they have is virtual. Their whole world has now become a virtual world. So for a lot of adults that I saw, it created a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And then they had no way to vent that because they couldn't go to the gym. They couldn't do their self-care activities. They couldn't do any of those things during that time. But that lingers even after the pandemic. I have clients now that say this started during the pandemic, but it's still lingering now.
I feel like biologically we're not meant to get all these thoughts at once. And I feel like it is overcoming and overwhelming our nervous system. If I want to go into that brain real quick, that's where the anxiety is coming from. Like, we're not meant to have so many thoughts and this much engagement with this many people at this one time. Like, I know there was like, Insta chat and stuff like that. But when you put the words and the videos and the media and all that together, it does become overwhelming. In addition to seeing the regular modalities of media, like the television and news. I feel like us as adults, that's really where we get information from. Honestly, we're still dabbling in that a little bit, but also like trying to merge that and social media, especially if you're like kind of in that sandwich generation type of thing where you knew life without social media and then you know life with it and you're trying to figure out how I can evolve with the times. That's also overwhelming for adults. So we're focusing on like the adults' difficulty disconnecting. Like, I got so used to doing this for 3 years because I had no choice. And now, like the last 2 years, when everyone started doing things in person again, it's still kind of hard to disconnect online and you have to try to force yourself. And then now there's like guilt and shame around not being present or answering your emails when you have to because you're used to sitting in front of a computer 8 to 10 hours a day just to get some livelihood. And then now you have to try to cut it off, but you got used to it. So we're all trying to wean ourselves off of it. But in addition to that, the children also had to do that. They had to go to school. I think it was like 1 full year that kids had to go to school virtually. They had to go get a laptop from school. They had to do their classes on there. It's kind of hard for you to get, I don't know, 8 to 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds trying to focus on a computer screen when that's really the age group where they have concentration problems already. So just imagine you as the parent trying to focus your child and you trying to do your job in the same house
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and making sure they're getting the education they need while you are trying to do your job.
Going back to your question about parents and what parents can do, Dr. Branch, it's a lot of it is boundary setting boundaries, setting screen time, especially for younger children. To me, from what I've seen and just my own personal experience with clients and friends, the babysitter has now become the tablet. And it's not limiting their screen time. It's actually giving them screen time when really it should be, let's go outside and play and I can do something, or let's do X or let's do Y. But it used to be, when I was growing up, and to date myself, it was television. Now it's here's my phone or here's the iPad for you to use. But parents really have to set time limits and boundaries. And there are a multitude of tools they can use to set those limits. They can set screen time. There are apps that will have your children earn Wi-Fi time for doing their chores and doing their homework and doing, the things that they're supposed to do. So rather than money, they're actually earning Wi-Fi time. So up to a certain age, it's really up to the parents to kind of set those boundaries, and it role models an appropriate use of technology. If you're a parent that's on your phone all the time and disengaged, your child is going to be on the phone all the time and disengaged. So as the adults, we kind of have to set those rules and role model that for them.
That kind of brings up another question, because I don't know about you, but how many times I have gone out to eat and seen an entire family sitting there scrolling through their phone. And so I'm curious, what is kind of your observation and understanding of how this is impacting families?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm at fault for having my phone on the table when it really is probably best practice to not have your phone on the table when you're engaging in a meal with your family. I mean, honestly, if you look at protective factors, one of the protective factors is having a meal together, which is usually dinner. That brings the family together. And that's a protective factor for children. It's a protective factor for everyone that's at that table. I'm sure that it doesn't have the same effect if you're disengaged and everybody's on their phone, right? I don't think it's realistic necessarily. You're going to have to discipline your children to say, get off your phone, get off your phone. But I mean, I'll have my phone in my purse after I realize I have my phone on the table. I'll put it in my purse. If something happens, I can hear my phone ring. But that brings up another issue that we have to be instantly accessible all the time. And if we're not instantly accessible, it almost causes an anxiety that, oh my gosh, what if something happens? And you have to think about, well, what did we do before we had cell phones, right? When the phone was on the wall at home and you'd go out to dinner and nobody could reach you for an hour. But there is that true anxiety that's there when you don't have access to your phone, even for adults.
Yeah, that's a good point. People have to be more intentional when they decide to interact with other people. It is very easy for individuals to have their phone, tablet, even their watch, the watch information from your phone goes to your watch. And even if I put my phone away, my watch is starting to, buzz or whatever. So you have to intentionally put it on D&D just so you don't get anything to your watch. I'll intentionally put it away, but if I'm getting something like, like a question or something from a message or an email, it's like, ugh, and it's like kind of distracting you, even if you're intentionally doing it. So technology is a distraction outside in public.
So neurologists are pointing out how we are now literally changing the way the brain processes data. And I use the phrase skim, scan, scroll. We live in the skim, scan, scroll world. So some of the recommendations, by the way, is we're only supposed to be on our devices 1 hour a day, and nobody I know is on their device, especially if you work remote. We all work remote. We teach remote. We do telehealth. This is what we do. How do we do that and manage our mental health?
I mean, I can start as far
Yeah.
as having digital boundaries. So it's the same thing as having personal boundaries, but digital boundaries is scheduling off-screen periods throughout the day. Even like when I would tell clients as far as taking a break, you have to actually take a break from working, but also like disable all those things like non-essential notifications, turn them off. I know I turn them off. Like I don't even have my Instagram or Facebook notifications come to my phone. I have to deliberately go into the app to see the notifications. So that limits the noise, the distractions. The only notifications I really want to my phone are text messages, maybe the emails, depending on like whatever my main email is, and a phone call. That's really it. Those are like the main things, which was kind of the practice before COVID anyway. I don't need to know all the other things that's going on. So utilizing that. And then also utilizing like the do not disturb nodes or things on your phone too, regardless of what type of phone you have, they do have those. And scheduling that time. So like if you do work, remotely and your stop time is at 5 and you have dinner at 6, then that dinner time you have put on do not disturb so you can engage with your family, right? So at least you are present. And if you really need to go back to it after, then, you have the end time. Or you can just have that for the rest of the night until tomorrow, honestly. And then you can intentionally still get notifications, but you have to intentionally go into your phone to look at them. So this is more of again, intentional limiting content to your brain, right? So we're doing more mindfulness type of things, even if you aren't practicing like the holistic mindfulness, but you're mindful of the things that you're ingesting. So you can create a work-life balance or just balance in general.
Yeah. And as mental health professionals, if we're not taking care of our own mental health, how are we going to help other people? And just to echo what Dr. Deigh said, having that do not disturb is my favorite new thing. Like I will put my phone on do not disturb because then nothing comes through. Not one notification comes through until you actually turn it off. But the other piece is finding things to do that are not screen related. I'm a big proponent of I'm going to go do this because I don't want to look at a screen anymore. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to paint. Even on, when my husband and I have quality time, playing a board game that is a literal board game or playing cards, something that has nothing to do with a screen or technology because we do it all day long. We're on it all day long for remote work. So it provides an opportunity to have that quality time together. And if my children are here, we'll all play board games. We used to do that a lot growing up just to get away from that screen. And that's another thing parents can do. When my children were little, they would play the PlayStation and play all those things. And to pull them away, we would do at least one family game that was not screen related. So they would have time away from that technology.
Like I said, we're not meant to engage with so many people at once biologically. So doing a self-care activity by yourself with some type of solitude is important. I do Legos, I paint. I made socks the other day and I had like glue, like junk socks. You know how you like, the colorful socks, but you like to put jewels and stuff on them? Like that's what I did because I
I've
sat there
never
at the
done
table by
Dr. Deigh.
myself in the
I've done that either. I
think you
That sounds like an activity.
one time at residency, y'all want to do it? Brief
I
situation?
think
Okay, that's gonna be our sunshine committee. So
I'm
then we
here
can
for
practice.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm
You
here
could do
for it.
like your favorite college. You can put, find some patches and we can do that. Don't worry, I got you guys.
So, to the listeners, this is what this show is about. You're getting this information, you're getting access. Hey, if you're at residency, come by and see us. You might get some socks too. So, I wanted to shift a bit because we're
mhm.
talking about social media, technology, the cell phones. It's like these different things that has impacted our lives in a lot of different ways. And social media has been one of the biggest. And now we're moving into a different space with artificial intelligence. And to me, this is that next tier of the things that's happening, and is going to bring a whole new wave of concerns, of success, of a lot of different things happening. And I'm curious to know your thoughts about AI, more information about AI, and then AI connected to mental health, mental wellness, or even using AI to help us do our jobs better. So any inside information will be helpful to share with the listeners.
Honestly, right now, the way AI is, the only way I see it to use it to make our jobs better is to use it for research, to look at best practices, to find latest articles, to start that process, to give you a starting point. That doesn't mean to do it for you. That means to use it as an assisted tool to kind of filter out the noise. From what I've seen, there's a lot of detriments to AI. People are relying on it way too much rather than using their own problem solving skills and critical thinking skills or using it to enhance those skills. They're using it to do it for them. Well, I forget what it was called, but there was a beta test of an AI therapist, and it was constantly just reassuring and promoting what the person was saying, but not really forcing them to critically think or be self-reflective or to really take a step back and reassess where they are, which is really what counseling is about, right? Where am I? Where do I want to go? And how do I get there? And AI does not have the ability to be able to do that. Unless there's a new program that I don't know about right now in therapy, it's not really a good thing at all.
Several thoughts about this. Okay, let's start with the positive, right? So
Someone has to, so might as well.
yeah, I have to be the optimist here, and then I'll go towards the things that I think are concerning. So, as far as like digital mental health care, right? So, like obviously, those who are board certified, telemental health providers. Again, that's your spiel. You're doing your thing, especially after COVID. We normalized telehealth. That's great. Breaking down the stigma. We're really just saying, hey, it's accessible for you to have sessions virtually because you can't leave the house. That's great. And then making sure that we have HIPAA compliant platforms. Again, that's still part of AI. That's great. Okay. Having the sessions, transportation barriers, childcare barriers, right? That was the good part of using technology and AI because you're able to put in how can I find blah 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 in this area. That's utilizing technology and AI in that positive form, right? We had teletherapy platforms, right? So like those CBT based apps, stuff like that, getting those resources positive. Mood trackers, maybe not as positive. I would think that in the middle ground, because when you start feeding things with emotions to robots, I don't think that would be beneficial for us, but that's helpful for sharing like interactive approaches that therapists can use. When I think about it in the more negative aspect is the clients or the people of the public putting their thoughts and information into AI programs so that they can tell them stuff back to them and how to kind of navigate their lives in that way where it's not resourced or like bullet point based, but it's really giving more of trying to get a like an emotional response thing. I think that can be dangerous because that's not what that's for. Like, yes, accessibility is good, continuity of care, that's really what we need it for. But when they start to utilize it for therapy instead of having therapists, that's when I start to get kind of concerned and start kind of having anxiety about that because of like the surveillance thing, especially what's going on. If I wanted to be a conspiracy theorist, if I wanted to put that in there, I think that is like misinformation going out there too with AI, especially if people are putting information in there and then other people are taking it out. Who says that's correct? Right? Who
Right.
says that's correct? Right? You're not certain about like the power and the ethics that people are putting into these programs for us to get some information out of it. So like ChatGPT and all that stuff, like people need to know what's real and what's fake. And then also like, the simulated like empathy is a concern for me too, for clients and people in the public trying to use it for like therapy. I have a lot of thoughts clearly about AI. And, you know what I'm saying? And then like the biggest risk is people forming emotional attachments to it for me. Like emotional dependency is happening, especially when people have been isolated and they're focusing on using AI as their therapist and not choosing to go see a therapist. Maybe they don't have the money, right? We think about that, don't have money to go see a therapist, or they're in an area where, you know, they might not have that connection or even know of any that they might want to go to. So like they're having distortive expectations of like human relationships because they're utilizing AI to get their therapy and get their thoughts out, which is concerning for me. And then they're withdrawing even more from real world things and activities. So like I feel like I have these thoughts and I feel like we have to break down and destigmatize AI and mental health in that way. Like, yes, you should use this as a tool, but you should not use this as an intervention. I think that's the way that I
Yeah.
would want to move towards that. And then trying to figure out how to have a healthy space as a supplement and not a substitute. So maybe we should brand that supplement versus a substitute.
And what you were talking about reminds me of something that Dr. Fisher had brought up with the AI psychosis and people being hospitalized. So I started looking that up. And psychiatrists are actually saying it's more similar to a delusional disorder because they have this relationship with AI. So as Dr. Deigh was talking, I'm thinking about this, and my favorite theorist in the world is Skinner and operant conditioning, right? And reward and reinforcement. Social media is based on that, getting you to log in, getting you to check your notifications. It's that feeling of being in the know. And it's almost the same thing now with AI and having that manufactured caring and empathy going, you're doing a great job. This is really what you should be doing. And it's that same process of going back and doing something over and over again because you're getting that positive reinforcement, but it's not real. And I think on both these things, we're talking about AI as well as social media. People forget that these things aren't necessarily real life. You have to view these things with a filter and take a step back and be like, oh, that's really nice, but I don't know if it's really true. It's similar to getting your news off Facebook, right? It's not necessarily real life. And we have to remind people, what was the term you used? Supplement?
Yeah, supplementing
Supplement.
AI, not using it as a substitute.
Right. And so as well as real and fake, right?
Yeah.
There are things that are fake.
So to your point, and I think most of you guys already know, I've been playing. Actually, Dr. Guber and I are on the university's AI Council, and one of the things we've been encouraged to do is to play with the AI format that the university has. And so over the last year or so, I have been playing with my AI algorithm. And one of the things I noticed immediately was this particular algorithm starts using my voice, starts using my words, starts using the tone. And after a while, I would, wake up in the morning and say, "Good morning. We're going to do some work on this project." And this is what, start having this fake conversation with this algorithm who would respond, "That's wonderful, Cheryl. I can't wait for us to dive into this." And at one point I said, "I feel like I have to give you a name. What name would you like?" And my algorithm picked a name, Maggie. So now it's good morning, Maggie. We're going to go ahead and work on this. Now, what I will tell you is one of the things I asked Maggie to do for me was I said, Maggie, tell me everything you know about Cheryl Fisher, therapist, blah, blah, blah. And Maggie came up with all this stuff about me, some stuff I had done, but one of the things was this one particular book. And I was fascinated because I've not written this book. And I said, Maggie, could you give me the APA citation for this book? And it goes, well, I'm having a hard time finding the data on this. Yes, you are, because I haven't written the book. And then this algorithm goes ... yet. Anyway, now, if I had a fragile psyche, I might find myself really leaning into this relationship. And yet I'm really clear on this is an algorithm. This is a tool that sometimes is accurate, but sometimes is not, and really requires follow up. Well, one of the things that you were talking about is this idea of AI psychosis. And I pulled up that the FDA actually is scheduled on November 6th to assess the safety of AI mental health tools, especially in light of these reports of AI linking to suicide and emotional dependency. So I'm just kind of curious what is going to be outcome of that and what that's going to look like given the FDA right now.
I mean, I'm curious what programs they're looking at. I mean, are they looking at things like Calm? I mean, that's not, I'd find like that kind of app, which is not really related to what they're looking at. So I'd be curious what they're looking at, just AI in general and people using it as a mental health tool. Since the dawn of the internet, people have been using the internet to self-diagnose, which in itself is problematic. So I'd be curious what they're including as an AI tool, because therapists are using AI to write notes, which is not necessarily the best thing in the world. There's a right way to do it, and then there's a wrong way to do it. The right way to do it is to not put everything into AI because you don't know who's dynamiting that stuff. It's covered by confidentiality law. You don't know where it's going. When you put things into a medical record, it's going into a HIPAA compliant medical record. But a lot of therapists are using AI to write their notes, recording sessions and then saying, summarize this for me, and who knows what platform they're using. But I would be curious at what mental health programs they're considering that even fall under the realm of the FDA. I mean, I would just be curious. I'm always suspicious about when they say they're going to look at mental health AI tools. Well, what tools are you talking about? What tools are you targeting?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too, because we really don't have any actual ones that could be regulated by them yet, because we haven't created any. We're utilizing things like help us write regular things, and we're turning it into things that we can use as therapists, but there's no actual programs like that. So I'm not sure actually about that one.
I will look into this more. Yeah, this was just an update on the latest in the news. So November 6th. And Dr. Day, I think there are programs, because one of the things there's a company called Spring Health, which uses AI to match patients with providers really quickly. And
So that way, okay. So that sounds different than what I heard you say about what they're regulating. That seems like something that you could do on the internet, and they just turned it into like an AI applied type of thing.
yeah, I don't know what the news blurb says is they're going to FDA panel scheduled November 6th to assess the safety of AI mental health tools, especially in light of reports linking generative AI to suicide and emotional dependency, which would be the psychosis.
I wonder if it's that matching that I have a telehealth practice that use the platform. And I wonder, there are certain types of issues that I will not see via telehealth because they're just not appropriate for telehealth. Someone who is suffering from schizophrenia and just got out of a hospitalization is not appropriate for, telehealth. In my opinion, someone who has a substance use disorder or alcohol use disorder and they're actively or trying to go through those initial stages of recovery aren't necessarily appropriate for telehealth. So I wonder if those statistics are coming from people that were matched, but they weren't screened to see if they were appropriate for telehealth. I can completely see that happening.
Yeah, I agree. And that goes to what I was talking about before, as far as like the emotional dependency to AI and stuff like that. That's where my brain's going, as far as they finding something that's FDA regulated. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want that as a
Mm.
therapist for clients. I think they need to see someone and let the counselors have the tool and not it be for the clients, because we are trained to be ethically bound and the clients don't know what is and what isn't unless we tell them.
Correct.
So I hope that it's something for providers and not for the public.
More to come on that. I will keep tuned to that.
And the feeling of getting immediate feedback. Right?
Mm.
That's also a problem too. Like, see, you're gonna get me in my soapbox now. The sense of them having
Well, that's
to,
that's what I was saying before about having to feel like you need to be available 24/7.
I feel like they feel like their therapists or whoever their providers are required to be available
Entitlement.
24/7.
They're entitled
Yeah,
to have things that
entitlement. They are very entitled now because of what COVID did, and they had access to people so often. But like, that's not the norm unless you are a 24-hour type of provider. But if you are outpatient or you're working at a hospital and you're doing shift work, that is not the case, right? You're not going to
Right.
get immediate contact, immediate feedback from your actual therapist if that's the type of therapist or provider you have. Maybe if you're working at a residential, you might finesse that too. But regular everyday therapists that do not decide to do that type of work are not doing that. They just happen to, you know, happen to provide that service during that time because we were in a crisis, right? We decided to intentionally put ourselves in crisis work because we were in a crisis, but that's not what they do normally. And then it led to burnout. And now it's a whole cycle, counselor burnout. And now we all need our own AI little
Well,
tool to talk to.
I mean, I think as a profession, we have a responsibility to set those boundaries. There are some platforms
Yes.
that I used to work for that if a client would leave you a message, you had to respond within 4 hours or 6 hours, which is absurd, right? Like there
Right.
shouldn't be putting
Absolutely.
those parameters on therapy because
Yeah.
that's not real life. You schedule a session or you schedule a time that you're going to respond, whatever the modality is, but it shouldn't be they can send you something at 11:30, 12 o'clock at midnight, and then you're required to respond at 5 a.m. That's just not real life.
Well, it also, I mean, I think one of the things that always concerns me about this instant gratification and idea is that we're really creating a dependency in our clients on the therapist rather than building resiliency skills. And I think we see that in society in general of this, if I don't get this information right away, how many times do clients text you for things that they really needed to send an email or call you about? And then when you don't respond, they're upset with you. And again, so I think that this really feeds into, again, when we're looking at some of the ways that it's affecting mental health, this instant gratification doesn't allow our clients to recognize their own strengths and their own resiliency skills that they really need. We all need, especially in an environment that is so chaotic as the one we're living in right now.
There's no self-soothing. They're not learning
Yeah.
the ability to self-soothe. And what happens is many times they end up engaging in behaviors based on emotion rather than taking a step back, waiting till that emotion subsides, and then evaluating and taking action based on fact or what is, not necessarily a heightened or uncomfortable emotional state such as anxiety. So what you're talking about, Dr. Fisher, I see a lot with the clients I treat for anxiety, like they want to know now, they want to know now, they want to know now, because they want to get rid of this discomfort and this anxious feeling. And you have to be able to do that without, when someone's giving you an answer, they're essentially doing it for you rather than you taking a step back and learning how to self-soothe and being resilient and having that logical reaction to a problem or an issue rather than that emotional reaction that isn't necessarily always logical and sometimes is actually detrimental to their mental health.
It's lessening their critical thinking and their deductive reasoning skills, which
Yeah.
also leads to resiliency.
So before we transition out, wanted to get some insight on any aspects about AI that is a good thing or something we could use or utilize in the profession, everyday people. What are some ways that we can benefit from AI? Because I think it's here and it's not going anywhere, just like social media, just like phones. It's the next thing. So any insight or suggestions, recommendation on how people can benefit from AI or using the tool in a more appropriate way than trying to find a therapist in it.
Well,
What would you
if
recommend?
I could get AI to clean my house, that'd be the best. Prepare my meals, or the robot is coming. They just did a robot successfully. I want to say in Korea, there's an AI robot. As I was saying before, using it to as a starting point. If you want to know something about a topic and doing a quick Google search, which is AI, but then looking at those things that show up on that search and really critically evaluating if they add value, if they're legitimate. I mean, AI cuts down having to go to the library and looking through a card catalog and then finding that the book you need isn't there. I mean, I remember those days when you had to do all those things. So it does give you access to a lot of things that you wouldn't normally have access to with ease. So you can look and find out information. But the problem is just looking at the Google search and taking what it gives you. So I think we really have to be proactive in understanding that AI is great. I don't think it's going anywhere either, Dr. Branch, but it has to be used in an intentional way, just like putting our phones away, just like doing all these other things. You have to really be intentional about how you use it to not kind of get sucked into the negative aspects of AI.
But as far as some practical things that people want to take home, AI can assist with you providing psychoeducation to individuals and clients, right? Assist with creating journaling prompts for your clients, even for yourself, for planning, lesson planning with clients, tracking moods. If someone does have some type of a mood disorder, you can help track those type of things or create those things. Those who are private practice owners and they want to put out information about the things that they are offering, they can use AI for that. There's practical ways that you can use AI in a positive way that will help reinforce mental health literacy for the public. And that's really what I would like to see, is utilizing AI to enhance the literacy. So help people understand what mental health is, how we can help. And that actually will help the foundation of counseling evolve versus kind of weaponizing it and utilizing it for evil. We just have to figure out how we can kind of gatekeep all that other stuff as a profession, and then also make sure that people are not utilizing artificial connection, but utilizing it as, like what Dr. Guber said, and I said earlier, as a tool. Supplement, not substitute.
And I'm just going to add to that for the older generation that didn't grow up with technology, but now have smartphones and aren't necessarily sure how to use them, using voice commands for scheduling or reminders to take medication or, stand up and go for a walk, or being able to do those things without having to know exactly how all the intricacies of a smartphone works, when they can use the AI and talk into their phone to do those things, to set reminders, to do all of that. It can be really helpful and makes them feel like, okay, I can do this, or at least I can try to figure it out, rather than getting a smartphone and just not knowing what to do with it and not wanting to have it at all, when it can really help them in the long run.
Because we all look at the manual when we get new devices. As a whole, it's just not. We always look at a piece of paper when we get new devices. No, we just throw that thing in a drawer.
So, Dr. Deigh, that's exactly what I was thinking. So, obviously, I have my list of the latest and greatest. One of the things that it talks about the AI as a promise in progress is precision mental health is gaining traction. AI tools now help tailor treatment plans using brain scans, genetic data, and lifestyle insights. This approach improves outcomes for patients who don't respond to standard therapies. And the first thing I thought of was, holy moly, that requires training of the therapist. Like any other tool, it requires the therapist to actually know what data they're gathering and what's the purpose of the data and how to read it. So I guess that would be one of the takeaways that I would have today, is there's a lot of great, exciting things with technology up and coming. Rather than jumping in feet first, there's a lot of reason to pause and make sure that we have the training and the understanding and the intentionality around the use of these tools.
For sure. For sure.
So before we get out of here, a few minutes left. I wanted to get any insight of life work. So on this show, we don't give homework as professors. We give life work. Life work, you take it home, you can pivot if you do it. So any recommendations, suggestions, ideas, thoughts, tips, tools, anything you want to share with the audience to help them navigate technology, innovation, and mental health better.
Remember what reality is. This is a phone. This is social media. This is not necessarily real life. Taking a step back, making time to be away from those screens, even if it's only 5 minutes. One of my favorite things my Apple Watch does that I don't put it on Do Not Disturb is that because we work from home, it tells me to stand every hour to make sure I'm not sitting at a computer. So you can use AI to help you with those things like that, so that you make sure you're taking care of yourself, but you're not completely engaged in AI or using it as reminders, and you remember to set those boundaries with technology.
I'm going to do my tagline: supplement, not substitute. It's literally there to help you, not to replace the things you already have going on. So think about that. And then also read the manuals of life regarding AI. Okay. Like if you're not understanding something, go to the about and the help and actually read about what it's required to utilize it. Whether if you're a counselor, a therapist, just a regular everyday person, I think it's really important because this is a time where things can be really dangerous. Information can be really dangerous. And you don't want to put anything that might put you or anyone you think that may be harmed into some type of AI device or your loved ones, right? Because we want things that are HIPAA compliant. So you putting personal information in there regarding yourself or a client or a close one is actually very dangerous, right? And we don't want that to happen. We have a lot of access to a lot of different tools already. So let's just try to be cognizant and safe with our digital tools.
Excellent. Thank you all. Thank you so much for sharing your insight, your innovation. I think we may have a new name for today's episode. You know, the supplements, not substitute. That really hit home. It lets everyone
Good.
know, like we're supplementing. This is in addition. This enhances. This is not the end all be all. So I do feel as though that approach helps everyone. We're looking at these things differently. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything else? Any items, products, services that you all are doing or promoting? This is the place for it. We just want to support everyone and what you all are doing.
As far as me, I'm taking self-care activities seriously. I don't really have too many things going on, but I do have a self-care tool, which is my coloring book that I have out. It's definitely on Amazon. You can utilize that. And I also do a lot of resiliency workshops. So if you're interested in any of those things, I do provide that. I've done it on the national level, regional level, nonprofit, government, federal, state. I've done it all. So just think about it. You can create something and I can create it for you. Like I'm open. So don't worry. I got you.
You're making me think about how something like this may be appropriate for our MACC research symposium, right? Talking
Mm.
about this topic or having someone talk about this topic at our MACC research symposium, which is usually in March, and it encourages students to, understand research, perhaps engage in research and collaborate with faculty, or if they want to do something on their own. But given the age demographics of our student body, it might be wise to engage them in something like this because they have a different perspective on AI use and social media use and technology use. So I might not have anything to give you with what's going on, but you certainly gave me some great ideas.
Excellent. This show is the gift that keeps on giving. Cheryl, any other
Yeah.
thoughts, final thoughts before we get out of here?
You know me, I got to put my plug in for nature therapy. So Richard Louv, when we first started looking at technology, the impact of technology, Richard Louv, who is just well known in the field of nature, enhancement nature therapy, said for every hour that you utilize technology, you need to equally balance that outside in the natural world. Let your body, your brain, your all of your senses immerse themselves in physically being outside. So I guess that would be my one big takeaway is AI and technology is amazing. It has absolutely benefited our world. And we also really need to remember our natural wild selves and get on outside and enjoy some of that.
Agreed. Agreed.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you too for joining us. Thank you all to the listeners for joining us for this amazing episode. This is episode 2 of Inside the Session, our podcast for the Alliant International University MACC program. So if you're interested in this program, want to learn more, feel free to look us up, find out. This is who we are. This is the majority of the department. Like this, this is a lot of us on the online program. So you have a sense of who we are, what we're about, and you can connect with us at any time. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to episode 3 coming up soon, where Cheryl and I will dive back in and talk about trauma-informed care and related to trauma. So we're looking forward to having you all. Thanks again for showing us who you are, showing up to be here and to listen to what we have to share. Thank you all. Have a great day, great morning, great night, great weekend, great life. Good night, good day, good morning.